Never say die, dogs. Pat McAfee did the whole Georgia thing on College Game Day. And I'm going to admit, it got me hyped up as well. See those Georgia fans go crazy like that. Like you just mentioned, not a very exciting game, not the fireworks that maybe we expected. A little bit underwhelming, but an SEC championship is an SEC championship. And Georgia got it done. The big storyline, of course, is Carson Beck going out with an injury, and Gunner Stockton, leading them to a field goal victory in overtime. What do you think of this game and Georgia's fighting through adversity?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the result I predicted. I know I said I had Georgia winning. Um, I do think I expected it to be a lot higher scoring, just a lot of kicking for the most part, aside of some touchdowns. But yeah, I don't know. I do like the resiliency from Georgia. Uh, actually looked sometimes better with Stockton than they did with Beck at times. So we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I think Georgia's a really good team. I think they're set up pretty well for the playoff. They should win their first game unless IU or Notre Dame goes in there and beats them. But yeah, I think they should win that game.
Yeah, that's a question we have to have. I use the word adversity, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise. Obviously, we don't cheer for injuries here, not even on our worst enemies. But Carson Beck going out, is there much of a difference, do you think, with Gunner on the field than with Carson on the field?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the whole talk around Beck is just it's so much greater because he had all these talks coming into the season about being a first round guy and even being mocked like first overall, and anything below that is like, oh, he's not good. Like
Yeah.
this isn't a good quarterback. So I think he does get a little bit of a bad rep just for that. Like I think he's a I think he's a very good college quarterback. Uh, so yeah, I don't think the whole injury thing will like alter where they stand on Beck if he's healthy. But it was nice to see Georgia prove that they're still a very capable team, even without their quote unquote guy at quarterback.
Right. Um, yeah, what did Kirby Smart say? He's a winner. He's
Yeah,
a winner. I don't know if he is a winner, but hey, he won this game for them.
he did.
He even took that hit at the end where his helmet got blown off his head. And I'm surprised he was okay. I thought that Holly Rowe, after the game, should have been asking him, Gunner, how many fingers am I holding up?
Yeah.
But I think you make a great point. Carson, a little bit underwhelming when he was in. 7 for 13, 56 yards. And to be fair, Gunner didn't do much on the passing side either. 12 for 16, 71 yards and a pick. Isn't amazing, but you do what you need to do to get wins, like you said. How about Texas? What do you see from the Texas side of things, and what do you think needs to be improved on in order to win these tight games? There's 2 losses to Georgia now.
Yeah. I mean, when you hold a team like Georgia at 22 points, you can't really be upset at the defense.
Right.
There were a lot of missed throws from Ewers, especially in the red zone, especially when they really needed scores, when they needed touchdowns. I just thought there were some passes that really could have been complete, especially from someone with the talent level of him, and they were just overthrown or whatnot. So I don't really think you're necessarily worried about any phase of the game. It's more just executing and locking in.
Yeah, I agree. If you look at the straight numbers, like the yardage and stuff, it would seem as if Texas would win this game easily. Like if you
Mhm.
told me going into the game that Georgia would only put up 136 yards passing and um, Texas would put up 358, I would say that Texas would have won, especially with guys like Matthew Golden and DeAndre Moore Jr., who haven't been bad this year. They've been good, but they haven't been like all-stars. They have stats like all-stars in this game, each over 100 yards. Um, I think this is dialogue that we need to have. Texas fans, let us know, and Vlad, you can let me know if this is a little bit of an overreaction, but should Arch Manning be the starter at Texas for their CFP game?
I don't. I think it's too late to kind of change that. I will say this. I'm pretty sure I said it last episode, previewing this as well. I do think they should kind of have like more of a package for Arch.
Mm-hmm.
I know I said going into it that they'll have like a running package for Arch, and Michigan does that with Alex Orji at quarterback. Like they have designed
Right.
run packages where they bring in a different quarterback. Um, so I do think that they should kind of take another step with that instead of, hey, here comes Arch Manning, like they're going to run the ball.
Right, right.
So I do think like he's more than capable of throwing the ball down the field. So I do think that they should kind of step that up. I think that would keep defenses on their heels a little bit more. And then while we're at that, back to Georgia real quick. I do think if they were to have to start Stockton for the CFP, I think they would be just fine if he got like a regular week of practice, like knowing that
Mm-hmm.
he was going to be the guy. And I think they still win this game. Obviously, I think they win it by maybe a couple more points if Stockton goes into the week. Obviously, like you can't predict injury, but if Stockton knows he's going into this game as the QB1, I think there's just better execution. Obviously, that's kind of a given, and I think that Georgia wins maybe a little bit more easily.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think it's. I saw it. Just asked that question because I was watching X and stuff, and I think X or Twitter is interesting because I'm sure you know from being a Reds fan, there's a lot of overreactions on there and a
A
lot
lot
of
of overreactions, a lot of fake news. You get all of
yes,
it. So
a lot of wild takes,
yeah,
and there are many people that are Texas fans, like pretty diehard Texas fans, that were criticizing Ewers and saying get Arch in there. Um, you even see it with like the Dr. Pepper commercial that airs, like
Mhm.
when Quinn Ewers is with the Dr. Pepper guy, and he's referring to Arch Manning, and he's saying like, "Oh, I don't need backup." Um, if I were Texas, two things I would maybe improve on. Um, you know, I think they can get the running game going a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, Quintrevion Wisner, good game, 19 carries, 51 yards. Actually, that's not that great, only 2.7 yards a carry. But I feel as if you could get it going a little bit more. Arch Manning, 1 carry for 5 yards. Jaden Blue, who was supposed to be one of their top running back guys coming into the season, only 2 carries for 2 yards. They were taking a lot of shots downfield, and I like the aggressiveness of Sarkisian, but I feel as if they get the running game going better. And then secondly, two guys that I had my eye on coming into this game, Isaiah Bond, the transfer from Alabama. I know he's been plagued by some injuries, and he's had an okay season, but I was kind of expecting him to have more of an impact than he had. Only 1 catch for 22 yards. Same with Gunnar Helm, who they're saying he's an NFL caliber tight end, 6'5", 250. Only 1 catch for 11 yards. And then On Georgia's side, I would say 4 fumbles, only 1 lost. So they got a little lucky. I noticed the ball was kind of bouncing their way a little bit. But you have to do a better job protecting the football. You can't just let someone just peanut punch it out right away. And then another thing that worries me for Georgia is just the lack. We kind of mentioned it with Penn State, but the lack of a premier wide receiver. Last year, obviously, had McConkey and Brock Bowers. This year, their best wide receiver is Arian Smith. I just don't. All due respect to Arian Smith, sure you're a cool guy, but I'm not sure if I'd want that being my number 1 wide receiver on a championship team. Do you have any thoughts on maybe some weaknesses for these teams that can be addressed or exploited going forward?
Yeah, I definitely agree about the wide receiver situation, and it's definitely unlike Georgia, just because they've been known to have some premier guys at tight end and receiver. So I do think that's kind of a concern, if teams are just completely eliminating their run game and making them pass the ball, they might walk into some trouble there. To be completely honest, I think Texas is just kind of, like I said, more of an execution thing. Like we said, if they play a clean game, Ewers makes a couple more passes and the ball bounces their way one more time, I think they win this game. So, I think it's just a matter of them cleaning up the little things and not getting completely unlucky on fumbles.
Absolutely. Yeah, a couple last things here. Hate to play the what if game. Don't like doing that, but because it is what it is. But and he was okay, but Burt Auburn missed 2 kicks in this game that weren't necessarily too long of field goals. How much confidence do you have in him going forward? And what are your thoughts on kickers in general? Because I feel as if there are going to be a few of these CFP games that just come down to the kicking game.
Yeah, I will never be that confident in college kicking. That's just kind of how I've been breeded to believe, I guess, just because of past results. I guess the only one I might believe in is Clemson's kicker after that game winner. But I don't know. It's really hard to trust. And I think a situation that might come up, at least in fans' heads, is if a kicker misses a field goal or 2 early in the game, what's the point where you're like, okay, the crowd's going to be all over him. He's going to be in his head. What's the point where you're like, hey, might have to scrap kicking and just kind of go for it. So we'll see.
Yeah, really happy you brought that up. We'll see if that's something that coaches do, because kicking, you see it with NFL kickers, guys like Justin Tucker are missing field goals now, and he's one of the best to ever do it in the kicking game. So you just don't know. Speaking of kicking game, not sure, if you're watching College Game Day, but feels if did you see the Texas fan who was kicking for the $1.2 million?
Yeah.
First of all, they're insane for putting up that much money.
It's ridiculous.
But I feel as if that was kind of emblematic of Texas's day. Just little far left, Like you said, an execution. Obviously, the guy, he didn't have a very strong leg, but he had enough of a leg to make it. But
yeah, absolutely.
Didn't know how to execute. And then another question for you as we wrap up these recaps. Curious what you thought about our main man. Well, he's not our main man, but Timothy Chalamet. Guy kind of surprised us. He knew his football a little bit. Was a little disappointed in him, though. He had really good rationales for all of his games, and then when it came to picking Texas, he just said, the because Matthew McConaughey's my movie dad.
Yeah.
What do you think of Chalamet's performance there on the set?
I thought more than anything, picking Ohio to beat Miami, Ohio, when everyone else who their job is to break down these games and
Yeah.
predict what's going to happen. He picked against all of them, and then Ohio ends up winning by 35 points. I think that's ridiculous.
Right.
So yeah, I know there's something I saw on X that he follows a bunch of like sports insider accounts, but it was more towards basketball. But sneaky ball knower, I guess. I was not
Yeah,
expecting-
good for him, man. Yeah, Timothy. Are you gonna watch his new movie?
We'll see. I honestly don't know if I've seen a movie with him in it. So.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Well, good luck to Matthew McConaughey. Hopefully you and the Longhorns can rebound. And for the Georgia Bulldogs fans, congrats. We'll see you in the CFP.
Yeah.